Okay, welcome to chapters 8 and 9 of My Side of the Mountain. I noticed that on the last reading, I didn't notice this page because of chapter 7, so I'm going to finish off the last page of chapter 7 here. When I woke, my eyes opened on two gray eyes and a white Strubly head. Small pin feathers were sticking out of the Strubly down like feathers in an Indian quiver. There's a simile. The big blue beak curled down in a snarl and up in a smile. Oh, Frightful, I said, you are a raving beauty. Frightful fluffed her nubby feathers and shook. I picked her up in the cup of my hands, and held her under my chin. I stuck my nose in the deep warm fuzz. It smelled dusty and sweet. I liked that bird. Oh, how I liked that bird from that smelly minute. It was so pleasant to feel the beating life and see the funny little awkward movements of the young thing. The legs pushed out between my fingers. I gathered them together with the thrashing wings and tucked the bird in one piece under my chin. I rocked. Frightful, I said, you will enjoy what we are going to do. I washed my bleeding shoulder in the creek, tucked the torn threads of my sweater back in the hole that they had come out of, and set out for my tree. So that was the end of the last chapter. So this is chapter 8, a brief account of what I did about the first man who was after me. So there's somebody after him. I'm wondering what that means. What do you think that means? So let's find out. Whoops. Okay. At the edge of the meadow, I sensed all was not well at camp. How I knew there was a human being there was not clear to me. I can only say that after living so long with the birds and animals, the movement of a human is like the difference between the explosion of a cap pistol and a cannon. I wormed toward camp. When I could see the man I felt to be there, I stopped and looked. He was wearing a forester's uniform. Immediately, I thought they had sent someone out to bring me in, and I began to shake, meaning he was like feeling nervous or scared. Then I realized I didn't have to go back to meet the man at all. I was perfectly free and capable of settling down anywhere. My tree was just a pleasant habit. I circled the meadow and went over to the gorge. On the way, I checked a trap. It was a deadfall, a figure four under a big rock. The rock was down. The food was rabbit, so one of his traps worked. I picked up a comfortable place just below the rim of the gorge where I could pop up every now and then and watch my tree. Here I dressed down the rabbit and fed Frightful some of the more savory bites from a young falcon's point of view: the liver, the heart, the brain. She ate in gulps. As I watched her swallow, I sensed a great pleasure. It is hard to explain my feelings at that moment. It seemed marvelous to see life pump through that strange little body of feathers, wordless noises, milk eyes, much as life pumped through me. The food put the bird to sleep. I watched her eyelids close from the bottom up and her head quiver, which means to shake. The fuzzy body rocked, the tail spread to steady it, and the little duckcock almost sighed as she sank into the leaves, sleeping. I had lots of time. I was going to wait for the man to leave, so I stared at my bird. The beautiful details of the new feather, the fern-like lashes along the lids, the saucy bristles at the base of the beak. Pleasant hours passed. Frightful would awaken. I would feed her. She would fall back to sleep, and I would watch the breath rock her body ever so slightly. I was breathing the same way, only not as fast. Her heartbeat was much faster than mine. She was designed to her bones for a swifter life. It finally occurred to me that I was very hungry. I stood up to see if the man were gone. He was yawning and pacing. The sun was now slanting on him now. The sun was slanting on him now, and I could see him quite well. He was a fire warden. Of course. It has not rained, I told myself, for almost 3 weeks, and the fire planes have been circling the mountains and valleys, patrolling the mountains. Apparently, the smoke from my fire was spotted, and a man was sent to check it. I recall the bare trampled ground around the tree, the fireplace of rocks filled with ashes, the wood chips from the making of my bed, and resolved hereafter to keep my yard clean. So I made rabbit soup in a tin can I found at the bottom of the gorge. I seasoned it with wild garlic and Jack in the pulpit roots. Jack in the pulpits have 3 big leaves on a stalk and are easily recognized by the curly striped awning above a stiff, serious preacher named Jack. The Jack in the pulpit root, or corn, tastes and looks like a potato. It should never be eaten raw. The fire I made was only of the driest wood. and I made it right at the water's edge. I didn't want a smoky fire on this particular evening. After supper, I made a bough bed and stretched out with Frightful beside me. Apparently, the more you stroke and handle a falcon, the easier they are to train. And I had all sorts of plans for the hoods and jesses, as the straps of a falcon are called, and I soon forgot about the man. Stretched out on the boughs, I listened to the wood pewees calling their haunting good nights until I fell sound asleep.